All right. Give us a minute. I am going to have to mute. There we go. All right. So, Helen, welcome to the Black Tower. And tonight, of all nights, I bring to you the illustrious D.H Thorne. What's up, brother?
Illustrious. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
You know,
fucking illustrious, man.
that's too close to my old nickname back in high school. It was Darth Luscious.
I see you illustrious.
Darth Luscious. But yeah, man, it's great to be here. I haven't been able to do anything like this except for on Dark Sorcery in forever. So it's nice to actually be chilling with just me and you.
I know, right? Because like you're always working, always busy.
Oh, man. You know, it's coming to an end next week. I finally got my summer schedule. I get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. I'm still working 40 hours, but it's like a perfect schedule. Like I can get a lot of shit done for my, what I'm doing here and everything else. So it's nice. It's fine. I get to sleep and stay up, and I can work at 3 a.m. on my magical projects instead of having to go to bed at like 9 or 10 like I have to do most nights.
Oh yeah. And I want to go ahead and do a shout out to everybody that's here tonight. Awesome to have you here. Do appreciate your attention and your attendance, I might say.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, some regulars I know. Obviously, we know some of these people. We'll probably get people filtering in as we go. So anybody who's watching the replay of this stream, hi.
All right. So like tonight, we wanted to do a interview/review of your book.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So like I'm having to like literally go by this. So just bear with me.
You know what? I'm going to bring up a copy of it too. And by the way, before we get started, I have yours here right now. I was going to show you earlier, but this is your copy that I got ready to go. Your extra copy, your special copy.
Hell yeah.
And so there you go. I don't know if you can read that. If not, you'll read it when you get it.
Hell yeah.
It's not, I don't think the screen's switching. Oh yeah, it is switching.
All right. Yeah, it's switching, dude. It's switching.
All right, cool.
All right. So I've gotten to interview John Vermillion on here for his work that he does. I've gotten to interview Kane on here, for some of the stuff he does. But dude, I tell you what, man, I remember when I met you, and just watching just like 7 months maybe. Yeah. Just watching this point, that is fucking phenomenal as shit, dude.
What happens when I could take some of the credit, but I got to give credit to the spirits. I mean, I put it in the dedication. This everything you're seeing is part of what I did when I woke back up. I said, I don't know. I can't put it all into words because some of it happened so fast and some of it was just intuitive. But I said, I want to make this my life again because I don't feel whole without it. And some of the first pacts I made were to become a respected sorcerer, to learn the secrets that I didn't know already, and to create works of magic, books of magic that would be well received, and to honor them. And I made pacts with multiple spirits. It says in the dedication that this book is not just me. It's not just for me. It is a mutual pact. It is a pact that you make with a spirit where it's for them and for you. So they will, how do I put this? It's in their best interest that it succeeds because it's meant for them as well.
Well, you're going to get me to quote you on something, though. Also, man, okay. They are shrewd businessmen.
Yeah, they are. Not all of them, though. You'd be surprised. Some are very, very smooth. And I know I say crude, but that's also because I want people to be aware of what they're agreeing to. When you make an agreement with a spirit, you're not just, you're not just like shaking hands with your friend saying, I'll be there at 6 and you show up at 6:30. This is a thing that you must take very seriously. And there's different ways to take it seriously. Like some people get really bent out of shape about certain parts of working with spirits. It tends to be more like a personal relationship if you do it right. Spirits, you got to pick the right ones that match your personality and will understand your shortcomings and your strengths and help you to build those up and fix them. So it's not always like some people will get like real hardcore. They'll write the pact out and they'll put blood on it and they'll do all this stuff. And if they miss a deadline by 5 minutes, they're petrified. Well, you can be like that, but if you make the right pact, you're safe. And they are shrewd businessmen. They're going to get the best that they're going to get. You know what I mean? They're going to get the best possible case scenario for themselves.
And it's also like with all shrewd businessmen or businesswomen for that matter, but just shrewd business in general, they're going to go for those who they know for a matter of fact are willing to put in the time, the energy, and the effort.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I think that's part of why my life up to this point has been the way it has been. It's put me in a position where I have to make a shot at something besides just working for other people. I have to make a shot at putting out what I believe and understand. And I have to do something more than just pick things up and put things down for a living. And it's not a point of desperation, but it's a point of no return. It's a you know, everything in my life. The only time in my life that I felt power was when I was, and by power I mean confidence and power, was when I was using magic and doing these things. Every other time I was, you know, that false humility that I don't appreciate. And when I reawoke to magic, I knew for a fact, without even knowing, I've known a lot of the things that have happened were going to happen. You can ask my wife. I said, wouldn't it be crazy if in a few months I'll be working with S. Ben Kane? And we both laughed, right? I never spoke to him before that, you know. Next thing I know, I'm working with Kane. Wouldn't it be funny if I write my book and it's done by the summer and not by the end of the year like I predicted? Dude, I'm already starting my second book. So, so these things happen. In a lot of ways, it goes back to what I often say about living a charmed life. You know, a lot of what I do doesn't require ceremony. It's literally just aligning myself with that true intention, and everything else falls into place. And working with spirits falls into place as part of that.
I want to quote an excerpt from your book, which I put it down in the comments, by the way, for anybody who wishes to follow. This is a direct excerpt from Become the Maelstrom. Those of us who embrace the darkness, those of us who accept we are damned for our dedication to darkness, finding liberation can be trivial. It isn't very different than the Zen monk who wakes up and realizes that the futility of their practice is the point, and then abandoning it perfects it. And this is the path of Lucifer, of Satan, and of the glory of the divine blessings of utter hopelessness and damnation. To lose it all, your inhibitions, all your attachments, all your morality, not to be evil for evil's sake. For this is just an inversion of the norm. For even that distorted, inverted ideology, there is still hope. Instead, you must find your own nobility, to decide for yourself what is meant by right and wrong, and to abide by your own rules of ethics, and find that when we base our ethics on solid foundation of truth, they are almost universal to others, but unique to our experience just the same. And that fucking said it all, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
You know,
it goes back a little bit to there's a lot of different ways to approach that quote. Part of it goes back to martial arts, where you learn something and you forget it. That's a little bit of it. But it's more about something that I learned in passing, which was people who were damned. It's like that song. I wish I could have quoted the song in the book, but that can get copyright issues. You know, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. And if you have given up your hope and you have reached a point, and I don't mean where you're miserable, but I mean a point where you've given up this hope of an attachment to bettering yourself or becoming something that you really don't even realize that you already are. That's when you can finally be free. Because when you think, let's put it one way. You as a human being don't really know in your limited senses and intellect what perfection would look like. So how do you know you're not already perfection? And when you are experiencing reality from this perspective of, I'm doing magic to ascend, what if you're already ascended and you're living the life of a god in a human form? So that's fanciful, but it's not far off from what I've found. And you can let go of things, but there's a lot more to that. I mean, it's to try to describe it better than what I quoted, I think is a mistake. I think you should read it and put it into your own experience, your own experiential framework, and what does it mean to you? And that doesn't mean that there wasn't a meaning that I intended, but I think that just the way you responded to it when you in our private conversation before we came on, was exactly pretty much what I intended for that to resonate with.
Brother, I'm not gonna lie. I read that, and like I was telling you earlier, there's very few things that elicit emotional responses out of me. I mean, very fucking little. And when I read that, like, dude, seriously, it was hard for me to fight the fucking tears. And it was on a personal level because of something 3 days ago. I was sitting here, and like I had reached a point to where I had been fighting off this particular aspect of self for so fucking long, and finally I'm like, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm going to embrace it because if it's going, what they say, what you resist persists. Well, it's one thing to comprehend a thing that you wish to change or to alter, to transform, to transmute. But there are some things that are driven from deep within the recesses of ourself and brought to the surface. They're not necessarily meant to enact or to do anything else with, but just to accept them, just to embrace them. Yep. And when I read that, dude, it brought back all those feelings of a few days ago when I came to that own personal gnosis of that. And ever since then, I have felt more free and I've felt more at liberty since then. And I do have something that I wrote actually to kind of be the cherry on the top of this nice dessert of having you here. And this is my own personal thought after reading your book.
Okay.
Have you ever had an experience that was so freeing, so empowering, it brought tears to your eyes? Prepare yourselves for the Maelstrom. It isn't coming. It's always been here, waiting. And Thorne is its mouthpiece, its priest.
Ooh, I'm a priest now. Ouch.
Well, priest of the current, I suppose, man.
I guess. I don't know. I'll take it. I mean, it's a nice title, but
You're the beast of the Maelstrom.
Dude, you nailed it, because it is always here. It is always here. And it kind of goes a little bit back to Jungian psychology as well, because at some point you need to integrate your flaws. And I don't mean flaws in the sense that you think they're flaws, but they're not flaws. They're just who you are. Yeah. And we spend so much of our time fighting against our true nature to control it, without really understanding that the control isn't the issue. It's you're not okay with yourself. And you can take this too far and say, oh, well, then I'm just going to be a child molester and a weirdo. I don't mean it like that. I mean along the lines of, there's a lot of things that we have shame in ourselves over that are stupid things to have shame over. It's kind of like when someone says, I want to be a better person. Well, what's stopping you? What is stopping you? Why can't you be a better person? What's stopping you? And then I would also say, what do you think a better person acts like? Why do you think they're a better person for acting that way? Isn't that just a form of vanity that makes you want to be a better person? What about, if you're saying that you want to be so conscientious and caring and kind, maybe you should stop trying to be that and just be that. And if you really wanted to be that way, you would be. So we make these judgments of ourselves, and it holds us back deeply. It holds us back in ways that we cannot perceive rationally because we never approach them. This is why Lucifer is so important. That's why in the path working, Lucifer is it is literally the first spirit I instruct you to try to contact and get a hold of. Because Lucifer, in this incarnation, because there's many incarnations of that cosmic rebel entity, the Luciferian rebel, that aspect, that archetype of that energy, of that sentient energy, is all about revealing your true self to you. And this can mean that he'll butter you up. This can also mean he won't rip you apart. I've never experienced Lucifer in that you suck attitude. No, it's always, well, it's okay that you have that thought. Just admit that you're having it. Embrace that thought. You want to kill that person that you don't like. It's okay. Are you acting on it? No. Why not? Well, I feel like it's wrong. Why? And he'll take you down this rabbit hole. And you'll realize at the end of the day that it's because it's not like you're resisting some beast inside of you. It's that you're in conflict with yourself. And he'll try to help you untangle that conflict so that you're liberated. Lucifer is the liberator. That is his rebellious liberator and light bringer. It's the three big things he does. And that's why I use him so prevalently as not just in a hierarchical sense in your path working to give you a top grade entity to work with, it is probably, people are always comparing like Yahweh, what's more powerful, Yahweh or the devil or this, that, and 6 other things. And I often tell people that with any authoritative energy, God, Yahweh, whatever, their inverse, their cosmic rebel is at least equally as powerful. And I don't just mean in a power level sense, I mean in their ability to transform you and your life. And if you want to be free, there's nothing better than a cosmic liberator, than this cosmic archetype.
I like the way you put it in your book concerning that when you were describing your triangle as the base where you understand what I'm saying, where the two are connected at the top, the line that goes across the top represents the polarity. And these are the opposing forces. And they are brought together as one. And I really like the way you pointed that out. One of the most amazing things, and I honestly I may promote people's books or stuff like that, but there are a few books that I've read that seriously they inspire me. They just they light that fire. They really do, And this one here, I'm not gonna. I don't think this is far fetched when I say it. For it to look on the outside like it is a simple piece of artwork, it's not. And notice how I'm equating it to artwork, because a lot of your book talks about art, brother, and I love that, how you equated everything. But this is one of those things where if you are a beginner, I would honestly, I would promote this to the beginner practitioner and be like, you need to read this, because the very first part of the book has the bases covered for the foundation of working, not just necessarily connecting to your personal paradigm, but in general, it's just, wow, to simplify that, put it in applicable terms and methods and ways to do so. I was sitting there going, holy shit, it's like, you weren't kidding when you said, you weren't trying to reinvent the wheel, but I'm going to say this, you reinvented the wheel, brother. You did a great job.
Thanks. Necessity is the mother of invention. That's one of the things that I talk about in the book, is that, growing up in the 90s and practicing magic as a teenager and as a young kid and all these other things in the 90s, we didn't have the internet. You couldn't go to a Facebook group and download, 100 different grimoires, current or past. You know what I mean? The only source you had was if you went to the bookstore and got lucky, they had an occult section. And if you were really lucky, they had something that wasn't just Kabbalah or just this or just that went, because it was all light New Age stuff, always.
Every single bit of it was New Age.
Yeah. And so it was real tough to find anything that had anything that was deeper. And so I ended up asking spirits to guide me. I would constantly be, on my YouTube channel, I'm actually going to start a series where I go into my childhood stories and stuff. But to preface some of it, growing up, what I would do is I was constantly going in a hypnotic states. That was how we contacted the spirits. We didn't know what we were doing in the sense that I do now. We didn't use sigils. I would get hypnotized as a traditional medium, and I would contact the spirits that I was working with, and I would just channel what they told me. And a large part of what I do started there. I would be seeing symbols, and I would use them in rituals, and I would do this, and I would do that. And I would open myself intuitively to just be guided in a ritual. I wouldn't, people would say, why are you doing that? I'd say, I don't know. I just feel like it's the right thing to do. I would remember why I did it in my own mind, and I'd write it down later, or I just remember it and I would just act on it later. And I would just keep using it and developing it. And little did I did know, but little did I realize just how much I was being guided towards developing what I've developed now. And it'll probably continue to evolve. There'll be a second edition and a third edition probably at some point. And when I change things and figure out things I didn't know already, there's definitely going to be more books on the subject. But a lot of people say this, I've been guided by the spirits, but I don't think many people really mean it. I think they're just using that as an excuse to create fantasy.
Until they read your book, and then they're going to be like, I was right. He was fucking guided by spirits.
Maybe. I think there's going to be some people who are really... There's definitely people who are wrapped up in a mechanical view of magic.
No, the kind of understanding that you applied to your book, dude, it screams Luciferian. It's got it right there, dude. I'm dead serious. That's some shit. I love it, dude.
My wife, who just read a little bit of one of Michael Ford's recent books, she's like, it's like you and him are like talking to the same source of information in some ways. I'm like, I wouldn't know. So I've never read a word of Michael Ford. I think I watched one of his YouTube videos like a month ago to see who he was. And I don't mean that in any disrespect. I don't know whether I'm supposed to respect him or not. So maybe.
He's a good author. Luciferian Witchcraft got me started 12 years ago in his workings, which I worked with him online years and like 20 years ago. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was back in the Yahoo days, man.
Yeah, really. That
Yahoo groups and everything. So it's not like
for those who don't know, Yahoo sucked.
that. But dude, seriously, I want to quote something.
Sure.
Okay, on page 9. Come to me, brevity. I hereby silence the chattering of a disorganized mind and replace it with profound silence into which wisdom and vision may flow.
Mm-hmm.
That is the kind of stuff, y'all, I am talking about. And where, in the particular section where I got it on page 9, it is almost as if when you had, back in the ancient of days, you had what they call anointed ones. It's where the concepts of priests and priestesses and shit came from. You had these that were spiritually anointed, and what it was were being people who were chosen by the gods to be their mouthpiece, their voice, even their hands to write or do great works. And when I read this, that's where I came up with the concept of you being their priest. Because, brother, I'm just going to tell you, you have concise, clear direction with this. The book was not all over the place. It was literally like an organized mind. It was like this book was written before you wrote it.
As you said, not like my normal speaking manner. Yeah.
No, seriously though, this book was literally like it was already written before you wrote it.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about a plagiarized thing. That's not.
Let me give you a little behind the scenes. When I did that, I was struggling to enter my trance state when I write. Now you brought this up, and I kind of laughed because 90% of the book is written in at least an entry stage level of trance. It's just I clear my mind and I just let the spontaneity go, because as a Zen, type of person, I can clear my mind of thought pretty easily, and then I act spontaneously. And I'm saying that because that was kind of like my declaration of shut the fuck up, stop trying to think and just write. Stop trying to think it through and just let it flow. I didn't even call in a spirit at the time. I was just let it flow from the source. And what ends up happening is, as I'm writing it, a lot of people, when they write and they go back and they make corrections, they switch stuff around. It's a very lengthy, deep, hard process. I didn't have to do that. My edit, I hope that it's readable. I think I did a good job on the spelling and stuff, but it needed very little correction. When I went through it, it was, maybe I wrote the word for as the number 4 instead of FOR once or something like that. It was stuff like that I had to fix. I didn't have to move much around. There wasn't a lot of, I'm sure that I missed something here and there in my editing pass. I only did one editing pass, and it was a very easy editing pass. I would listen to it as it was being spoken to me by the system on Word, and I'd like fall asleep to it because there's like nothing to change. You know what I mean? It was like I didn't have to fix anything, with a few exceptions. There's a couple sections I kind of, especially in the pathworking section, I kind of moved some things around and added and changed some things, but for the most part, the deep end of the pool, especially foundation and methodology, almost the entire thing, I'm just, like you said, listening to Cryo Chamber in a trance. And that's not a bragging thing. That's not like a way to sell the book. It's when I did it, that's what I was doing. And
yeah, I could definitely tell. You remember we were talking about that, because earlier today when I was reading it, that was the first thing I did was, crank up some Cryo Chamber. And I'm like, I need some kind of sound in the background to muffle out everything else. If I'm going to read a 255-page book in 6 hours, I'm going to at least, be able to not be interrupted.
And we're not plugging Cryo Chamber, but it is the perfect, like if we're talking like, what kind of wine goes with this cigar, that's a perfect wine for the cigar.
Right. So So in a lot of this, like in that thing I was talking about, the come to me brevity part, I could definitely tell that that was something, even as I was reading it, I could tell that that was something that you did and
Hmm.
that you had applied it into the book. And that's perfect. But I think that that's something that every practitioner should do even beforehand. Even the readers of your book, I would suggest doing that before they even begin reading it, because there's something about being able to clear the mind, clear your energies, and just tap straight into a particular current so that you can totally be absolved by it, and just kind of like tap into it and do your thing. And I noticed that for every bit of well, your speech, for example, you got the Zen Buddhism thing down pat, this non-duality, this thing that makes you Thorne, that makes you a boy, because you got this shit going on, and I love that about you. Uh, as much as you got that, I noticed that in your book, everything hints at a darker lineage.
Hmm.
And I noticed that like right off the bat. I mean, just even as I'm reading, even as I'm sitting there reading, and and a lot of time books that come across like oh, self help, and it's all about changing your inner world, and I mean they got the goosebumps and the feel goods and all this other shit. And then I go and I read your book, and it may have things that appear like that, but if you're one of those people who can read behind the words or even be able to, sense where this shit's going, like you're sitting there going, "Oh yeah, this is definitely some Boyd inspired shit." And this one was led by the great and mighty Lucifer, and just we're gonna run with this one. And and I thought it was interesting that you're bringing up Lucifer because just the day before yesterday, I was doing research on his name, and I've done this before, but I was trying to figure out something in particular. And his name is actually broke down in two parts, and this is why they call it a title. And
Yeah.
it's Lux Fer.
Yep.
And Lux means light, but it's a spiritual light, a divine light, and not like angels and stuff, just divine light.
Sure. Yep.
The light of a sun or a star. And then Fer, F-E-R, it literally translates as carry. So
Yep.
it's carry the divine light. You have the light bringer. So I mean, it's kind of interchangeable in the way that it's done like this. But what I thought was funny is that you can break its name down like fur. Sometimes it was spelled fear, F-I-E-R,
Yep.
and fear itself meant to become,
Right.
or fire. Excuse me. Yeah, yeah, to become fire. So it was the fire of light. So in his name, you have all these different connotations, and one of the I come up with a mantra or a Latin motto, "Quam levis ignis," which means fire becomes light.
Yeah. Fire becomes light. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I was reading your book, and it's the only reason I bring this up because I'm not changing subjects, I'm not doing
That's
anything
fine.
like.
That's fine.
What I thought was so interesting was the coincidence between what I was studying and putting together the night before last to the day when I was reading your book. I'm like, holy crap, man! I mean, this is like what happened.
Yeah. I wanted to be careful because Lucifer as a concept, I'm going to cover two bases here. Spirits in general are what they are. They're not these names and they're not these images and they're not these titles. They are, to me, archetypal, sentient archetypal energy or vibration or light or whatever you want, whatever, substance you want to make them. But they're archetypal in nature. And they appear to mankind through the lens of the individual or the culture that sees them, and they create for them an avatar that makes sense. And that avatar of Lucifer, people will say, well, Lucifer only appeared in a 300 AD. I cover that in the book. It's actually very important that you understand that the Lucifer that I'm talking about is just an avatar of this cosmic rebel entity, this vibration, this archetype.
Like a
That
crown.
it is and it has reappeared in different variations in multiple cultures many times. Some would even say Jesus is the light side of that same archetype. I don't like to say that to left-hand path people sometimes as they get pissed off.
I like to use the term crown when representing that, and here's why I use the term crown.
Crown, yeah.
It's because the crown represents the authority and the power to command. It also gives the right of rulership and stuff.
Right.
Sorry.
And so I don't really bring up the Jesus angle at all because I don't think it's necessary. But my point is that I wanted to make clear that the spirit that I'm talking about really only appeared in the medieval mind, the Dark Age medieval mind, and was only really solidified in this Luciferian understanding, most likely as a result of Milton's Paradise Lost and the imagery of Gustave Doré and all that kind of stuff.
You even mentioned that.
Yes, and before that, Lucifer was just a collection of folktales that many Christians and priests would talk. They kind of created this entity, almost egregorically speaking. But the entity that it is not. It's kind of like I'm called D.H Thorne, but I'm not D.H Thorne. I am who I am. D.H Thorne is a mask I wear for public.
You, my boy.
I'm your boy. Waylon is a mask you wear for your public. And I'm not saying you're fake. We all do this all the time. It's constant. You can't help it. And so, this is like parts theory, I guess they call it in psychology, where you have different, at your job, you're one person and so on. It's a little bit like that, but it goes the other direction as well. Like I said, we see these spirits through the lens of our personal experience and culture. So in 1,000 years, Lucifer might appear completely differently. And it won't be Lucifer anymore. It'll be who knows what, So this entity that I'm putting you in the pathworking section in contact with, it's not mandatory. In fact, I make it really clear that this is just an example pathworking. It's one that, as you said, since this is a book primarily aimed at beginners, I think there's still stuff for advanced people in there. There's a lot of people who think they're advanced that don't know really what they're doing. And I say that with all humility, haha. But you have a lot of people who will want to have somewhere to start. And of course, I tell them, you got to make sure you get through that methodology section. You got to make sure you know how to enter an altered state. You have to know how to at least feel and start to manipulate energy in some way. It doesn't have to be exactly word for word the way I'm describing it, but you have to do some of these exercises and get a feel for energy in some capacity, emotional, physical, etc. You have to understand how the elemental nature of reality works. You have to understand. Now, of course, I'm drawing from several sources. I'm drawing from Eastern esotericism and some Western, and I'm kind of commingling certain ideas that maybe have or have not been done before the way I did it. But it kind of helps people, since we're modern humans with access to all these different traditions, we can use all of those. So you need to get through that to understand how these things work to really get the most out of the pathworking section. But you can pick the book up and just do the pathworking if you want and treat it like any old grimoire you can find at the bookstore. You don't have to use the deep parts.
I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I'm afoot said something really interesting because I've been kind of wondering the same thing for a while now. So get your book, we're gonna want the tapestry for an altar piece too. I'm with him on this one. Can we get the tapestry too one day? Will you ever allow that design to be made into something, and even if you sell it or whatever, would you ever get into that?
My personal opinion is this. Number one, I've thought about selling this tapestry, yes, but I don't have the connections to do that yet, and I'm going to be looking into that in the future. On the other hand,
if y'all know anybody,
I haven't had a chance to look yet, but I'm going to start feeling out as time goes on, because I know if this book becomes popular, I'm going to need to. But beyond that, my philosophy is, as long as you're not plagiarizing and giving my book away, I even put a disclaimer in the pathworking section. All of the sigils for the spirits in there, you may copy for personal use. You may print them for personal use. You can't go sharing them around for free, please. I ask you nicely.
Let's be respectful.
Yeah, but you can, if you share them on the internet and stuff, I just mean don't be like making money off of them. Don't print them up. Like fair use, if you know what fair use means. You can use them for fair use. I show them on the screen all the time, and I put them in the Become the Maelstrom, and the cover of the book, the same thing. There's actually in Become the Maelstrom, the Facebook group, there is a clean image of it that you can use. And in fact, that's actually part of the pathworking I have. It explains how to use the book as a centerpiece for meditation. But I love this particular sigil here. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you like this, go to the printer, go to the photocopy machine and run it off and use it in ritual. Put blood on it, burn it, do whatever you want to do with it.
And if you're like me, you got your printer right here beside you.
Exactly, because I realize that especially the way I've artistically interpreted them, you're not going to be able to draw them like that unless you just really want to do your own version of that. So, yeah, and Gary said I could do Teespring. I could do those things, and I'm going to look into it more. I really will. If there's a demand for it, if I get like 10 people saying I want to buy one, I don't care if it's $100. Yeah, I'll definitely
I'll make down for one of those people.
I'll just give you the file, dude. You don't need to pay me $100 for nothing. Well, to be fair, this cost me almost $100 with shipping. I mean, it's not cheap to get a tapestry made like that. So, yeah.
Rock on.
Oh, Super Steve's the same. Please don't get commercials. One of the things I liked about you is blah, 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 blah. Okay. Listen. Number one, back in the olden times, you'd go to a temple and you'd have to make a donation of some kind to get anything done almost always. Number two, I don't put my information behind a paywall, but you're not getting my stuff for free. It's not, I'm not trying to be a dick. I put all my information out there without strings attached. I put it like this: if you want to support me, buy my products, buy my book. If you don't want to support me, fuck off. It's really that simple. And I'm sorry, Super Steve. I'm saying that nastily. I don't mean it towards you that way. That's just a general view I have, is that the amount of time and energy I put into this, if you expect this for free, then I'm sorry. You get a lot of what I give for free without any strings attached. I'm not going to give you guys tapestries for free, and I'm not going to give you guys. So it's just that simple. I mean, it's the reason why I didn't put this out on PDF, is because I know the next thing that's going to happen within a week is it's going to end up in every, PDF repository out there. And I've put free PDFs out there. If you look, you'll find some of them. So it's not like I don't put information out there. So again, don't take my harshness personally. I mean this as a general sentiment. I don't have a problem with people making money off of their practices. What I do have a problem with personally is when people hide things behind a paywall. So the difference is really simple. My information is free because you can go get it yourself. But my delivery, I mean, how much do you want to pay me to sit with you for an hour and explain everything to you? How much do you want to pay me for the hundreds of hours I poured on making this book? Do I get paid for this? Is that worth my time? Should I produce this book at this quality for free and just give it to everybody? No, fuck that. If you're entitled, you're not entitled to my knowledge that way. You're not entitled to my effort that way. So just like you're not entitled to have a spirit do for you whatever the hell you want, you can't just go to a spirit and be like, oh, because I put a sigil on a piece of paper, you have to do what I tell you. No. Okay, no, I understand, Super. I hear you, brother. I know what I think I know what you're saying now. You don't want me to be one of those guys that, I think I know what you. It gets so commercial that I produce things just with a commercial mentality. No, that's not what I do. In fact, that's probably why I haven't jumped on the whole idea of making a tapestry for sale. I figure you guys can make your own. You don't need me to do that. It's more like a thing, if you want to support me, go ahead. There's a lot of online creators that I try to emulate. And I try to see my products as if you want to support me, buy them thing. So if you follow me, if you're following my videos, everything in my videos is maybe not as well expressed. It's maybe not as well expressed as in my book, but it's all the same ideas, just in a different format. So I don't cover them as clearly in videos. There's just no way I can get that deep on a video, short of like entering some kind of weird trance and just going and going. But then you won't have a personal look, because I'll probably do it as audio only. I wouldn't be able to do that on camera. I just wouldn't. It's just not going to work for me.
And I went ahead and shared the Amazon address, so it's direct link straight to where you can purchase the book right up for those who are interested in it. It is an awesome book. I mean, just straight up. I was not prepared for what I read because I have spoke with Thorne here at length about everything underneath the sun and vice versa. And I will say this, it's a motherfucking masterpiece.
Oh shit, dude.
It's fucking like he talks about art, he talks about mentality, magic as art, the art form of how to carry yourself with individual, well, for lack of better words, not necessarily like your royalty, but you have to have an air of authority, a place of power within inside yourself. And his book literally tells you how to do this. And like I said, I have never once seen this type of thing presented in an applicable way. So I mean, this is unique as shit.
And I one thing that it was concerned to me when I wrote it is, a lot of, what do people want to read in their occult literature or their magical literature? And one of the things I find is people are always like gaga over the technology aspect of magic. They want sigils, they want formulas, they want this, that, and 6 other things. Nobody talks about the theory behind it and why you need certain things or don't need certain things. And I wanted to be a little different in that capacity because every book I've ever read says stand in a circle and say this, but they don't say in detail what you should be doing internally or astrally to affect change in your surroundings.
Exactly.
So my book is a little heavier on theory than it is on technology. I don't give you a lot of symbols to work with. I don't give you a lot. I give you some, yes. There's dozens of pictures in there, but I don't go heavy on this is how you lay out this. You have to stand in this specific direction and blah, 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 blah. I tell you why you might want to, and I let you decide whether you're going to or not. I don't tell you have to do this ritual at this phase of the moon. I tell you why that phase of the moon might be useful. Choose to do it that way or not. It's up to you. And you'll know when it's right, you'll know when it's wrong or when it's necessary. It's not always necessary. You can go counter to the moon if you have to. If you have a big enough need, people do it all the time and they get their results.
Concerning the Trinity, the triangle and the circle, we're not going to go over the normal, what you've already stated about it. Let's cover a little bit of like what you have in the book, if you don't mind. I have just a few snippets here because I'm not trying to.
No, that's fine. We can share whatever. I mean, the Trinity is probably the most important, at least original piece of content. Yeah,
it is like the. Well, let's just go from here. And this is magic is an art form. The quote you gave: "The enemy of art is the absence of limitations."
Absolutely,
limitations are as important as possibilities, and these represent the 2 points at the top. Yep. The polarity, the opposites working in unison to one another. Opposition. And in my own personal notes here, I had also wrote that equal amounts of opposition are necessary for this transfiguration, this transformation.
Yes and no. Yeah, I mean, one of the ways to look at it is this: when you're swimming, you can't swim if the water doesn't resist you a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't walk if the ground doesn't refuse to move under your feet. And so life, magic, and everything requires this sense of resistance, this polarity, as you put it. Now, I didn't envision the Trinity as a bunch of polarities in the sense that they're fighting one another.
Oh, no. I didn't mean it like that. I was just saying concerning the opposition.
Because there's definitely things like the mind cannot see into the void, and the spirit is totally alien to the material, and the body is alien to the astral. And these things, there is a separation, and it's not a separation in the true sense of separation. It's a separation in the sense of experience. So to put it another way, your eye can't see itself, okay? In the same sense, the mind cannot see itself. The spirit cannot see itself. All these things they're looking out in a certain direction. So some of this you just have to read, because putting it into words is tough. That's why it's a symbol, and that's why I go to such great lengths to describe it. And those descriptions were actually hard to do because I couldn't be linear in my description. I just had to blast every single thought about each one of them as they came to me. So it can get a little like I'll be talking about the astral plane and talking about the material plane for some reason. I'll be talking about the material plane and I'm spending so much time talking about the astral, but that's to give it context and contrast. And that's why I hope that I wrote that, because that was tough to write that without it being confusing. So I hope people can grasp what I'm going for, trying to explain why I use that symbol the way I do.
I think in the whole it will, because like I'm having to give snippets because I'm not gonna sit here and read your book out. I mean, that's
Well, like I said, the information is free. I mean, little snippets is fine. I mean, that's how it gets out there for one
well,
thing.
there's also the point of personal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So when the reader reads it, they're going to come up with something. And even you yourself even said this, that perspective is different for everyone. And what one gets out of it, another gets something different.
Yep. Well, let's go back to the Trinity for a second and let's see if I can elucidate it with my mouth as well as I did.
I'm going to direct it with my notes because I have notes.
Oh shit!
I have real notes.
Let me go into that Trinity, like to explain what we're talking about here. When you say perspective, your entire reality is subjective. The objective world is the subjective world of another perspective of reality. Now, ultimately, your subjective world contains and controls everything you experience. The objective world that you experience is, we'll say, influenceable. Okay, it can be altered and influenced. And if you look at the symbol, you'll notice it has an outer circles and inner circle. That inner circle is actually the subjective perspective of the other objective universe looking into you. So you can see it like a Mobius strip. They feed into one another. If you go through that portal all the way, you come right back out your own eye. That's the point.
Did you know that they also have I think that this was true 8 to 9 years ago. I think they may have discredited it now in this present age, but concerning black holes and quantum mechanics, where they were talking about, if you were to actually make it through one, you'd actually come back out exactly where you started.
Yeah, I don't know
You
that.
read about that?
No, but I've heard similar things. I mean, one way to look at it though is geometrically, and it's, in my opinion, Einstein hit something that most people still haven't quite grasped, and that is reality is more geometric than it is anything else, in the sense that it's all about directions. It's all about directions and distances and things like that. So, I guess what I'm getting at is that there's a large amount of geometry at work here that is fundamental in how we assume things. If you go back to the beginning, I point out, Buckminster Fuller pointed out that, the triangle, the Trinity, this pattern of triangles is the simplest foundation of physical reality we can come up with. So, the pixel basically. And again, it's hard for me to put into words in a video what took me, time to write in hundreds or thousands of words on a book. But all I can say is that this symbol is a rabbit hole. It is designed to be approachable and understandable, but the more you look at it and try to figure out what the symbolism is, if you really, really put your time into it and meditate on it, you're going to constantly find something new, to the point where you're going to constantly go, oh, why do you put that there? Oh, I get it. That has meaning. There's a meaning there. You'll notice that each aspect is also a triangle. And I have different formats of it too. You can show the picture if you want. I'll show the picture. You find it.
I'm going to say something real quick though. Go ahead. Show the.
I have to find it, so you can probably.
Oh, okay. So the design employed is the energetic symmetry of shape. So sometimes we think of shapes as being we think of it right here, like we don't employ symbols on a deep enough level. We see them with our eyes, but that's usually as far as they get. But when we internalize them, they become part of our internal alphabet. And that's a. Go ahead, Dave.
So there's some of the other versions of it. You'll see one of them, I really accentuate the fact that it's 3 triangles pointing towards the center. So those other triangles have meaning too. Why would I use triangles instead of circles? Because you can almost treat it like a Venn diagram. Why do I use triangles? Because there's direction again. There's direction, there's flow, there is, you had noticed when I first showed it to you that the 2 triangles point, and they, at the point where they connect, is a point of nexus and power and pressure and conflict, as not conflict, but opposition and transformation, because one triangle, it's like an X, it kind of flips into the other. So there's a lot of extra symbolism in there. that I don't want to pollute people's minds with, because it's meant to be your own understanding at the end of the day. People, it's kind of like when you go to, we'll say a church or a Zen temple or something like that. You'll get people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, repeating what the Roshi said, sounding wise, but then when put to the test, they don't know shit. In the same sense, I don't want you emulating my book to sound like you know what it's about, and then failing to grasp the deeper point. And so I am, rather than giving you all the answers, I'm giving you part one, and I want you to keep playing with it and see where it takes you.
Yeah, you're giving clues to a puzzle.
Right, and it's a puzzle I haven't solved yet, if I'm going to be blatantly honest with you. There's so much in that context that, you know, when I presented this to Azazel, when I did my 30-day working with him, I said, what do you think about the Trinity of Self? He says it's a very good crutch for a human mind to understand what is not knowable, basically, and is not knowable in the intellectual way, which was a clue to me that the most important feature of that is the void. That if you think of it in another way, the void is where it's all really coming from, and it's all flowing from the void, and the mind is the void that can't see itself. The mind is the void, but it cannot turn back and look at itself clearly and understand itself for what it truly is. It's just like an eye cannot see itself. We can see a reflection of our eye. You can reflect and see, but that's not your eye. You're still not seeing the truth. You're still not seeing the fundamental aspect of what it is, which is why the mind is opposite the void. The mind cannot go into the void directly. It can only see interpretations of it. But experience flows to the void. Void creates events, but the experience of those events flows back to the void. So I think you'll hopefully see in the writing where I tried to put that.
Yeah. One thing that I really enjoyed about it, you didn't keep it 2D, I guess is the way you put it. I don't really know what dimension you would use to describe it. It's not something flat and linear that you would look at. I enjoyed how you used color associations with the Trinity of Self. I was going to ask you in the three planes, which are worded around in between the two outer circles, and colors associated with them in your book. I was wondering about if there was sound equivalent.
You know, you could put that, because as we were talking about privately, there is some loose correlation to the chakra system, and that wasn't intentional. That was something that evolved out of it. So as I'm putting this together over my lifetime, because you have to remember, if you read, originally this just started as me using a triangle in ritual. That's what I did. I'd put a triangle in the dirt. Sometimes I'd put a circle around it. Sometimes I wouldn't. I'd play with it and I'd use it different ways. Part of it actually came, the inspiration originally came, I believe, it was from the 21 Lessons of Merlin, believe it or not, oddly enough. It was the dragon's eye. And I was like, that's a really cool symbol. How can I incorporate that? How can I use it? And then I just, like I always do, I take something like I stole fire from the gods and I just run off with it. And I set everything on fire trying to figure out how it works.
You come saxum saxorum, all right.
Yes, that's right, baby. So I did that. And as I just played with it, more and more stages, levels, almost like not a Rorschach, a chaos pattern, it just gets deeper and bigger as I look at it. So what I did was, if you look at the aspects, I went from RGB to CYM. CMK, I think it is, or CMY. That's what it's, CMY. So you have definitely some potential correlation with, if you can do color theory in the chakra system, that actually corresponds to sound and vibration. So, the material plane is actually born of the mental aspect observing or experiencing the body, and the material plane exists because of that experience. You have to read it to understand what I'm saying, but when the mind observes the fundamental aspect of body, it sees a random mass of madness that doesn't make any sense because there's no reason or form to it. So what it does is it draws down ideas that it has from the astral. using those as forms to create a material plane that actually has sense, that actually has value. So to put this in an experiential way, when you look at a table, it only becomes a table when you decide it's a table. Before that, it's just a mass of energy in the shape that you will eventually call a table. But the idea of table is astral. The foundational element of table, the thing you put your hands on, that you like. If an ant crawls on a table, it doesn't know what a table is, but it still walks on it. So the body is that substance, that stuff that doesn't have meaning yet. When you create the material plane, you are pulling down ideas from the astral to form this thing that is the material plane that most people live in primarily. Most people, and when I say live in, I don't mean like you're in a dimension. I mean it's a focus, because you're always in all of these three aspects and all of these different planes at all times. It's where your focus is that makes it real. So when you enter the astral plane, whatever form that takes for you, you're not actually leaving anywhere. You're just changing your focus. Like when you read a book, from start to finish, you're still looking at the whole book. It's just where your focus is. So you have to read these sections, because again, it's really hard to put into just spoken words the different nuances that took me time to, just put on paper. It'd be easier for me to read it to you than to explain it to you.
Yeah, right. Spiritual Messiah there with that's me, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black with the coloring of the realms. That's, dude,
And yes, I am a graphic design nerd. Actually, I'm not a nerd, but I did used to professionally do graphic arts. So yes, what was weird to me was I thought to myself, well, what colors would be associated with these things and why? Well, red would be body. That just seems body. That seems low vibrational. It's infrared. It's red. There we go. Body. Well, the mind is kind of, it's kind of intellectual and weird. And that kind of seems green to me. And then blue, well, that's like magic to me. That's space. That's sky. That's astral. Blue is spirit. And then from there, I kind of played with the colors till it made sense. And lo and behold, if you look at a color wheel, the colors that go in between the red, blue, and green, kind of makes sense for what I put there, because yellow happens to be between green and red, and cyan happens to be between green and blue, and magenta, where the void is, that happens to be between red and blue. So I said, oh shit, this makes sense. Next thing I know, as I'm looking in the chakra system later on, just to get my P's and Q's in order, and I'm, because I know the chakras more by sense than by what they look or whatever.
But you realize the connection, the correlations.
Right. I'm finding the correlations as I'm doing my added research to make sure I'm doing it right. But to give an example, I have a crown chakra bowl that I use for a lot. Well, I know that is where I feel the sound when I hear it. To me, the crown chakra is where I breathe through when I'm doing the meditation. I breathe through my crown chakra when I'm using the crown chakra meditation. I hear it in my upper head crown region, just like with when I ring an ajna chakra bowl, I feel it and hear it in my nasal behind my eye passage. That's where the breath goes. When I have a throat one, that's where I feel it. When I have a heart one, that's where I feel it. So then I'm looking at all of this and I'm going, okay, there's some correspondences there. Were they intentional? No. Are they precise? No. But they are definitely something that, like I said, you're going to find things in this that you'll find correspondences that use them. If you feel like astral should be the crown chakra or the ajna chakra, or whatever you want it to be, do it. If you feel like it should be, if the void should be your crown chakra, use it. Whatever you feel is right is perfectly okay. This is a symbol. Okay. This is not reality. This is like a picture of an atom. Okay.
It's a toy to play with.
It's something to play with. Just
like your book says. Like I can't get past that first part of your book. I really can't. The astoundingness of it, we are gods sleep. We are sleeping gods that are dreaming. The whole thing of, like I said, it's like how to awaken someone. I mean, it's all right there. It's fucking awesome, dude.
Thanks, man. It's partially also, I offer a write through From the Ashes, the Eye of the Storm. And that is part of that same practice, that same idea. a lot of people just use it as a meditation or whatever, and it's hard for me to really explain to them what it's going to do to them if they use it the right way. But I also give in the book a simple method to create your own version of that sigil that I give for you guys. And this is where I go back again and say, you know, my information's more or less free, I guess, if you're gonna have to buy the book to get it, I guess. But the information is free. You don't have to buy a $200 ritual for me or whatever to get that same experience. You can do this for yourself. In fact, I can't tell you how many spirits, when I'm helping someone and they're asking me to do the right for them or whatever, and I know that they're a practitioner already, the spirit's like, what the fuck? You know, why don't they do it? What is their problem? Well, they're not asking, but I mean, that's the tone. You know what I mean? Why aren't they doing it? Why are you offering to do it for them? Now, some don't mind. Some are like, yeah, take them for every penny they got. You know, a person who can be robbed of their watch and have it sold back to them should be. That's how they learn. You know, that's Zagan for you, by the way. So it's very, and that's a Zen monk for you too. A Zen monk could say the same thing, at least a lot of times anyway. At least
that's a Dagon thing. I gotta remember that. That's a Dagon thing.
It's a Zagan thing. It's a Zagan. If you get to the path working where I talk about the 9 kings, I think most people got him wrong. I think most people think he's an alchemist. No, I don't see him as an alchemist. Not in that sense. If he's an alchemist, he's that phony alchemist that would tell you could turn lead to gold and sell you a painted brick. And, you know, that's alchemy in his eye. If you read that section, it might make you chuckle, because if what I found out after I wrote that is I was like, let me see what other people say about Zagan, because I don't do that. I experience the spirit, then I write it, and then I search. You know, I see what the people say, and I compare notes. And I'm like, nobody sees him as this con artist, this god of con artists. What is the hell? What's wrong with people?
Well, like a trickster.
Then I found out that Crowley, I believe it was, said the same thing I did, more or less. Not maybe the same way, but the same basic gist. And I was like, oh. Somebody maybe did get the right one. I don't know where this whole he's an alchemist thing came from. I mean, I could see why they would think it.
I think it came from the 1800s. I really do. I think a couple of bored English gentlemen of those famous clubs and stuff, you know, sat around, you know, researching older material and stuff. And, you know, I think it was in their day and age thing. And as all things that are passed down, that are, you know, filtered through different people, you know, until it finally comes to us in the shape it's in. I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, their particular takes on it. And it could have been influenced by this, that, or the other, or whatever. Of
course. But if you go back to the source material for the Goetia is a 15th century or 16th century book by Johann Weyer, I believe it was, the Pseudemonica Daemonium, or he got that from somewhere else potentially. He got that, but he was doing research to explain magic as a mental illness, not as an actual magical thing. And so he was writing all this stuff out with the intent to disprove it. But you have to also see it as the perspective of the time, the technology of the time, the ideas of the time. And if you go back to those time periods, some of those statements, he can turn blood into wine and all this other stuff. I guess that could sound like transmutation to someone who's never worked with Zagan and asked him what he really means by that, or what was meant by those things. But if you look, he's turning coins of one metal into another and certain things. You can do it with an atom smasher, Dave. Or what is it? I think it's particle accelerator that can turn lead into gold. But that's not the point. The point is he can turn metals into coins of the denomination. What is that except a counterfeiter? That is someone who's taking, if you go back in time, the way that they use coins would often be a different actual street value or use value than the metal that they were made out of. So you could take a piece of silver and it'd be worth a lot more if you made it into a silver coin and used it in that sense. And it wouldn't have to be a solid silver coin. You just need a layer of silver so people could fall for it. So
that's where the practice of biting it came into.
Biting, shaving, all these different things. And so Zagan, if you read all of those things, you can see a pattern. And now talk to the spirit and ask him, is that what you really meant? What do you think he means by turning people wise? You know, how do you think he turns people wise? He cons the shit until they figure out that they've been conned. And now you're wise. You're streetwise.
It's like, I'm like, for that. And he's like, yeah, you did.
So go read that section when you get a chance, and check out, because I don't go too heavy, because I'm going to probably, one of my next books is probably going to be an elaborated grimoire of spirits. It's going to be a listing of all the spirits I've worked with Gnosis, or the channeling of those spirits. If I haven't worked with them, I'll work with the king above them or whatever. Tell me what I need to know about them and put them in the grimoire for people to have a deeper understanding on a different level. Because when everybody does that, what do? They do the planet, the freaking tarot card they belong to, their color, what candle to use. That's all, useful to people who want to use it that way, but that's not how it was originally communicated. Yeah. There weren't even sigils in the original form. It was just a description. You had to figure it out yourself.
I will tell you something really funny, and I thought this was weird, and I was checking out your book, and it kind of backed me up on this. So I was looking at the way that you re-illustrated a lot of the seals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. I was like, holy crap, back in the day, I'd run off all these seals and stuff of the Goetic spirits, and it would never work right, no matter what. So then I got into the practice of drawing them by hand. And there's a big difference. It's not just the energy you're putting into them, but as you're drawing them, as you're doing this, you're also drawing them in your mind's eye.
That's correct, yes.
And when I saw the way that you had, put some illustrious flourishes on it, I was like sitting there and I was like, you know what? He's tapped into that primal draconian current within them, which is connected to us, and he's represented them as being, what they're formed of, what they're created of, or what they're made up of. And dude, it's fucking awesome, man.
Well, when you look at those, also there with most of my art, like on the cover in particular, if you stare into it, or the graphic on the Become the Maelstrom group, if you use it in meditative trance, it'll start moving on you. It'll start spiraling, and all kinds of shit will happen. That's by design. I designed that to pop out of the picture at you, to create a 3-dimensional translation for your mind to play with. These sigils aren't much different in that if you look at them right, you can picture them as smoke or energy swirling in space in front of you. Look at how they all flow. Look at how all the different heads flow a certain way. They flow in a direction. That's meant to be not just like, bang, here's the symbol, solid, static. That whole thing's meant to flow and ebb, and picture it like smoke off of your altar turning into the sigil as well. That's another way to picture it. But in the astral realm, it's not, this is not something that's going to happen on your altar necessarily. I guess it could, I wouldn't put it past them, but that's like a 1 in a billion chance. But that is what you should be visualizing in the astral. When you're taking those sigils, especially if you're printing them, you have to push energy into them in your astral space. You can't just take the sigil, put it on the altar, put blood on it, and go, this will work because it's a sigil. No, you have to activate it. It has to come off the page. Whether you've drawn it by hand or not, you've got to elevate that line on paper into an astral construct. This astral construct is anchored to the line on the paper, but it's not the line on the paper. Anchors are very important in this kind of magic, because you are anchoring astral energy. You're doing a holistic act. You're creating an object in a holistic manner. So if you just draw a sigil on a piece of paper, you're just drawing a sigil on a piece of paper. The moment you give it energy and an astral presence, now it's a holistic act. Now it's in your mind, it's on a piece of paper, and it's in the astral realm, and it exists equally in all 3 spaces. When you've done that, you've now created the trinity of holistic action. You've created a moment or a space or an object in the greater whole that is a real object. A spirit can come and see that and be like, there it is, both in the astral, the physical, and blah, 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 blah. Then when you release this, when you burn that sigil, the physical, the body manifestation of the sigil burns, and that enters the atmosphere, creating a ripple of chaos that does what you want. The astral symbol should equally be dissolved and destroyed. It should be forgotten, which is one of the reasons why I like to use flash paper, because it gives you a moment of pop. And then your mind state needs to be blanked. So you're releasing that energy completely that you've just poured into that sigil. You're releasing it completely. Now, I don't know if I explained that properly in the book. I hope I did. Or at least I gave you the gist of it. But that is the point of why I'm doing it that way, making it animated, I'm trying to make it more than just a picture on a fucking piece of paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're trying to give it a flourish, give it life, to where the viewer, when they looked at it, it came to life in their mind.
Exactly. Mind and astral space, yes.
Yeah. You know, do you have any points that you want to talk about on your book? Like, is there like a section that you're, not necessarily more proud of, but something that that you want to throw a little bit more attention to, especially, as viewers. Some of them already have the book. Some of them are getting them tomorrow, or whenever. Is there a part you want to go over, briefly or whatever?
I mean, if I say no, it's not because there's nothing that would be interesting. It's because I think that there's so many different topics that I cover. I go into, now I'm not a master of tarot by any stretch, but I go into how to use the tarot for divination. I came up with a custom spread using Lucifer and the 9 Goetic Kings. There's stuff like that. But I want people to understand that what I'm trying to create here is, if you understand the foundational principles at work, at some point you can put the book down and not use the rest of it. And if you're unable to do that, you are to work with the spirits till they guide you to understanding it, which is why the path working exists as it does. You are meant to ask the spirits to guide you the rest of the way. So the spells I include in there, they're educational in nature. They're not like, I'm not going to give you like a candle spell to cure warts or some dumb shit. I'm showing you how you can do a basic candle spell. It's really easy. You could probably find this on YouTube anytime you want. Just look it up. It's easy. I changed it a little bit the way I do it. Nothing new there. There's nothing new under the sun. That's for a novice. But my intention is for the person reading this, is once you understand the basic principles that guide my magic, you will just put it down and say, I don't need all this anymore. I get it. And it's not because you'll be disappointed. It's because you'll just do it. It'll be something that you'll just go, oh, I get it. It's not that hard. It's not that confusing. It doesn't have to be this complicated. Because all of those complicated methods of other systems are just the creation of a system to help the person get through to that point where they realize they are God and that they are already doing it.
That takes me back to what we were talking about before we came on. It's like I said, at the end of the first book, the first part of your book, you state that for those who have made it this far, that that if they understand, if they've taken in and understood it, they may very well realize that they don't need anything else.
Mm-hmm. They can make up the rest of it.
I was really impressed at that. I mean, give me 1 second. Now I will quote that word for word.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my goodness, dude! It blew my mind because I've never heard an author say that.
While you're looking, so if you're looking to, by the way, especially if you're newer at this, but I think there's stuff in there for advanced people, because like I said, there's a lot of people who do magic mechanically and they don't put a lot of feeling into it. So, and I'm not saying that as an insult. I think it's a thing people are missing. And I put a lot of effort into explaining the theory behind the actions rather than just telling you to do them. So a lot of books will say, intone the name of this spirit. What the fuck does intonation mean? Push energy, push intention into this. What is intention? How many of you even know how to find what your intention really is? A lot of people think their intention is what their emotions tell them is their intention. Like, oh, I hate this guy, I want to kill him. That's not your intention, I promise you. You need to be able to reduce down your ideas to find the true intention behind them. And that is the crack, so to speak. That is the crack that you put the wedge in that splits open reality and gives you what you want. Because when you understand your true intention, that's where you're already kind of going. All you have to do is that's why I call it the Maelstrom. You're sailing, you're not forcing. You're realizing you are this storm. You don't have to force anything. You just have to figure out which current you want to ride and ride it, and just go to where you want to end up.
Yeah. I honestly can't find it, and I have no idea why. It must not have been for something to be put up on there. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It was either, I put it in a lot of I think I might have said it actually more than once, but
no, I was just basically it's saying that, by the time you get to the end of book 1, that, you may find that you don't, that you got it down pat. And I'm butchering the shit out of this. That's why I was looking for it so I could actually quote it correctly. It was just amazing. Like I said, I've never read an author say, if you get to this point, you realize what I did, she don't need this, you know, should toss it. I was like, holy shit, nobody says that, you know.
Well, I mean, again, not to quote Crowley too much because I never actually read the book, but you know, I guess it's the book of the law. You're supposed to burn it after you read it. You know,
Yeah.
it's a similar mentality. I didn't even realize that again until just now.
It's like Fight Club. First,
Yeah.
don't talk.
Yeah, we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, you know, when going back to a martial arts reference again, if you ever go to a more traditional martial arts school, not just like a BJJ or MMA school like I go to mostly now, the traditional schools, they show you a technique or a pattern. They expect you to emulate it perfectly, and that's that. Or they expect you to figure it out after that point. But one of the worst things you can do is be trained to just emulate the pattern. You're supposed to pick it apart and use it. So you're supposed to actually learn the technique, then forget it. That's actually how you know you've mastered it. So in the same sense, you're supposed to learn all this and then don't try to copy what I'm showing you. Put it into practice for a little while, and then forget it. Put the book away. Don't ever open it again. You know, it's you don't have to.
Memory.
Yeah, well, it's that, and it's also liberation. I'm trying to teach you to be confident in your own ability to have an intuition, and to be guided by spirits, not just by logic or reason. You know, because a lot of times we second guess ourselves when we do magic when we're beginning. Should I have done this on this date really because that's a better correspondence? Should I have used this ingredient because it's more likely to do what I want? And that right there, you've just ruined everything. You've just completely shot yourself in the foot. You saw me do a ritual. Like not many people have seen me do one for real. And you and Nick saw me perform one for someone. And you know, it was actually touching to hear the compliments and the remarks that you guys gave, because it's exactly what I'm trying to get at here. And that wasn't even like my best, like my final form, so to speak. But the idea that you're like, oh, do you always is that always the energy you put in it? Is this always the mentality? Is this always, do you always get results like that? Yeah, because it's different. This is the stuff that is hard to teach you even in a book. It's hard to teach you because it's experiential. It's not technical.
What I thought so strange about watching you do ritual is the fact that as you were doing it, I knew where you were coming from and saw it. But it takes somebody who's walked that kind of path, who is, I guess, aware, energetically aware. It's kind of like knowing your body. I'm not talking about, oh, I hurt my toe, you know, not that kind. Yeah. But like, have you ever drank a cold glass of water and felt it go down? You could feel it in your stomach. That kind of awareness, you know, but becoming more aware of even the subtle energies, and you know, and that's unique to watch somebody do something like that. Feel the energy because it's like an experience. You're viewing something that, you know, is being expressed, but at the same time, it's not that, you know, you feel a connection, but at the same time, you recognize it as something you yourself do in your own way.
And as I often say, I'm not that technical. Like, you know, like I'm like the swordsman, not the swordsmith. I don't know how to create some of the things that are used. I don't know how. I'm not a master of complex ritual or correspondences. If you're buying my book because you're hoping I'm going to give you a chart of correspondences that tell you everything, good luck. It's not the book for you. If you want a book, that is going to teach you all right, go back and watch, you know, Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon, and that first scene where he's teaching the guy how to punch and kick. He's like, no, you lack feeling. You need emotional content. That's me right now. I'm telling the occult community, you lack feeling. And that's what I'm hoping to bring in this book. I think maybe that's the most important ingredient. You lack feeling. Put feeling into what you're doing.
Well, I want to go over one last thing with you if you're willing.
Sure.
What is your take on damnation? I got to know, because in your book, and not just in the statement I said earlier, but all throughout your book, you can tell that it comes from a point of desolation. And so
I mean, it's really simple. I sort of summed it up before when, you know, freedom is just a word for someone who has nothing left to lose. And to me, damnation is the demonization of liberation is what it really is. Because if you look at everything that the Bible and all these other things teach you, I shouldn't say that, because the Bible is actually twisted. I've actually been tempted to go through the Bible
and correct it
and correct it and show what they were really trying to tell you, and how the old school ruined it and turned it into a system of control instead. This whole idea that you will be damned and go to hell is not even mentioned in the damn Bible. It's not even in there. This whole idea of damnation is a taboo against knowing who you really are and acting on it. What is Lucifer's big sin? It's said to be pride, and also it's also said to be believing that he can do better or outside of God's will or XYZ. It's this sense of independence, and that is constantly destroyed in Christianity. It is constantly torn down. Every single chapter is about how humanity should never decide for itself. It should always follow some higher power. And that higher power starts with God and works its way down through the priests and the kings, etc. And then you have the little peasant in the field who's just the sheep who's getting protected by the shepherd.
We are told to sacrifice ourselves for something or someone else. And Lucifer instead said, I will sacrifice myself for myself. See you later.
Right, exactly. Screw you guys. I'm going to have my own heaven with blackjack and hookers. So damnation is bullshit. There is no such thing as that kind of damnation. Now, damnation in the other sense, you can feel a sense of hopelessness. Now, this is kind of a high level idea here, but I'm going to try to condense it down. There's either acceptance or nihilism. Now, acceptance is knowing the truth and being okay with it and living your life as a person who's empowered because you know the truth. Nihilism is knowing the truth and being disappointed by it and being miserable about it all the fucking time and saying, oh, there's no meaning and purpose to life. Well, you know what that means to me? I get to decide what the meaning and purpose is, not the universe. I decide. That's the difference. Okay? Damnation is saying, I'm already going to hell. I might as well fucking have fun. I might as well do what I think is right on my level. And maybe in so doing, I'll liberate myself and become higher than the throne. I will ascend because I will realize I'm already God. I don't need some God to provide for me. I'm already God.
And in that event, hell is the heaven of our own creation.
Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. Of course, you got to watch out, though. Just like in my, Godhood for Dummies video, you may find that having everything you want gets boring real fast, and you end up being Bob in accounting all over again. And that's the cycle of samsara. That's the cycle of going back again, because you have not yet fully embraced, which is also a game too. A lot of people don't understand that the first layers of Zen, you start saying, I got to get rid of my ego and I have to accept and not, I have to do this and that. You know what the final stage of Zen is? You fucking fart, you smell it, and you have a nice day. It's being yourself, free, liberated. Who gives a shit? There's no judgment of the experience. There's just experience, and it's just being the experience, totally embracing it, not worrying about going up or down, because the worst thing you can do is get so focused on ascension that you don't realize that at the end of that rainbow, you're going to come down again.
There's a ascent for every ascent.
Right. So people put a value judgment on experience, whereas someone who's liberated figures all experience is equal value. And in a sense that it's all bliss. It's all exactly what you want to experience. If you're a person who wants my book because you need magic to save you, then use it as such, but recognize that you put yourself in that position because you wanted to save yourself. You created this situation as a god already to make yourself go through this experience. There is nothing wrong. Like one of the higher levels of Zen is to realize there's nothing wrong with not being enlightened because you're already enlightened. There's nothing to enlighten. There's nobody to be enlightened. There's nothing.
Yeah, there's a master that they talk about that spent 75 years in enlightenment only to realize he already knew everything to begin with.
Yes, and he just had to accept what is. That's all it is. There is no point to enlightenment. It's a fool's errand, and a fool who persists in his folly will become wise, as Alan Watts and many other people have said in history. A fool who persists in his folly will become wise. And become the Maelstrom is just another way to persist in your folly until you understand that you're already doing it. You're already doing it, and that this is why I treat magic as a performance art rather than as a mechanical way to get what you want. Because I already realized that I don't necessarily need it. I can, as I did with my wife, jokingly say, wouldn't it be something if I end up working with Kane? Wouldn't it be something if all of this works? Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be cool? I was already making it happen at that moment because I knew it. I felt the alignment. I felt the future. So I just did rituals to match what I knew was going to happen. I don't know how I knew. If you told me, would you bet on it? I'd say no, but I knew in my heart already what was coming. So.
Yeah. I like what David said here. I've seen the throne of the gods and it lies empty. The most inspiring line I've ever heard that came from a video game. The reason I like that is because I think I was about 19 years old and I'd been working on astral travel and found this huge throne in front of the moon and it was always empty. I mean, always empty. No one sat upon it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just interesting coincidence. He says that, and I had like a personal experience with it.
I think. So what is it? What was it? I've seen the throne of the gods, and it's empty, and it lies empty. The most inspiring. Yeah. You know, that goes back to an old mind game I used to play with myself as a kid when I was turning away from Christianity, and I was encountering a lot of atheists who were challenging me constantly about my Christianity. And they were making good points and they were hitting home a few times. I said, well, what if there is no God? And I really played that thought out for as long as I could go. I went as far as I could. And I said, let's say there is no God for a moment. Let's just pretend there's no God. Okay. I'm in a way, I'm still an atheist, by the way. I don't believe there is a God. I think there's just divinity. There's just experience. And there are entities and you can call them gods if you want, but that's another topic for another time. So I went off on this tangent. I said, if there is no God controlling everything, if there's no God that is the creator and the source and the blah, 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 in this sense that there is, a God the Father, for example, who's in control of me ultimately? Who decides? What is my boss? What is greater than me? Who has more power than me? And I realized nobody. There's nothing that has power over me if there isn't a God that can just make me do what he wants.
Yeah.
And then I said, and then I thought, well, what if somebody put a gun to my head and said, do what I want or else? And I said, I could still say fuck off and get shot. Okay, well, what about if there's an earthquake? Well, I might not have a choice over whether I die in the earthquake or not, but I have a choice about how I approach it. It's not really more powerful than me. It's just an event, just like any other. So it's not really making me do anything except, what anything can be. So, I mean, I could still potentially survive it. So if there's no God in heaven, then there is no God higher than me. And that was kind of like that empty throne moment. When I realized that there is nobody in the throne, I realized that means that's for me. That throne is mine. And I just have to wake up and realize it.
Yeah.
So this is a journey that took my whole life. And it's still going. It's still fun. And the journey isn't revelatory, it's how to explain it. It's nuances of description that I still haven't figured out yet. Because I can feel it. I know what I know. You know what I mean? I feel what I am. I see things. Sometimes I'll be at work and I'll close my eyes and suddenly I'll just connect and I'll be like, I'm all of this. I don't feel it all, but I feel like this huge oceanic feeling. I am the world for a moment. And then it condenses down. I forget what it felt like because it's impossible to condense, to know that feeling. And I'll go, okay, this is pretty cool. How do I explain it? And then I realized, well, various mystery schools have been trying for generations. And how do they all explain it? They all seem to come back to the same one or two precepts, and that is we are either all one or all is mind or all is source. But they're all saying the same thing, just with different language and different nuance. But it's still, like Joseph Campbell will say, they're all inspired by the same truth. And they're all, it's kind of like the three monks experiencing an elephant. One will say it's a snake, one will say it's a tree, and one will say it's a lion. They're all right. They all have got a piece of it. And that's kind of the hard part, is how do you put this into words? I don't try. I give you a poetic foundation to work from, and I hope you figure it out based on that. That's
Well, I'm going to say this. I appreciate you inspiring us with your truth and for putting this out there, man.
Thank you. I hope that people understand. I feel bad. I kind of snapped at Super T's or Super Stess. I wasn't snapping at him. I think he knows that, or she. But I want to reiterate that I've wrestled with that thought for a long time, and that's what makes me mad. That's why I got fired up, is that, fuck judging me for selling what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to judge that. I don't judge anybody for selling what they do. What I judge is when people sell bullshit and act like it's not.
Like it's gold.
Right. I mean, here's a funny story. It's the last one I'll end on. If you look back in ancient Japan, a lot of people think like these Zen monks, they live in these very humble lives and everything. If you ever go to like a real Zen temple, they've got gold filigree and priceless artifacts and things all over the goddamn thing. They live in the lap of luxury, but they still live a humble life. They take a lot of money, okay? They take a lot of things from a lot of sources, but they don't become attached to the stuff. They don't become attached to the thing. So I have no qualms about taking energy for energy. I have created a book, I have created a spell, I have created a product that took energy. It's only fair, and it's only going to benefit you if you return that energy to continue the cycle. So it's kind of like when I was a martial arts teacher, I could teach for free, and I did, and nobody put their time and effort in when I did. It was only when I charged people that suddenly people started giving a shit about their lessons. A thing that doesn't have value doesn't get used. You know what I mean? If I give it away completely for free and I don't expect something in return, even if I don't care about the return on my investment, you're not going to take it seriously. If this was a free PDF that I put out right now and said free for everybody, 1,000 people would download it and 2 people would read it. Right? I mean, how many PDFs do all of you guys have who take PDFs? Have you read every single PDF? Now, maybe Waylon might because he's a bookworm, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people, they download them, they have a big collection, and they never use them. Well, my book costs $35. That means you've got to want to read it, and you're going to read it because it costs you money.
Yeah, right. But no, man, dude, this, I appreciate you taking time out to do this, because, we have a ton of obligations pretty much spread out all over the place, both in our personal lives, on here with the community, so forth and so on. But I appreciate this personally because I wanted to do this. The whole do the interview with the author and and share points and stuff. And I appreciate you doing that.
You're welcome, man. Well, like I said in that one thing, you kicked a lot of doors open for me just by giving me the encouragement to say, I've been practicing for a long time and you're doing it right. And I'm going, okay. I mean, I believe that, but it was nice to hear it. And it was nice to be shown the doors that I could open and look through. And that's why I call you my kingmaker, because without you, I wouldn't have had, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't have found any other opportunity, but you and Dark Sorcery, but you were the first one. You were the one who were like, I like what you're doing. I love your blog. Let me keep talking to you about your blog and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why is this guy kissing my butt? And I realized he's not kissing my butt. He just as genuinely likes what I do. Cool. I need more people like that in my life. How can I help him out? Let's work with him a little bit. Let's bring him up too. Let's do these things. Because I've been watching your videos for a long time and blah, 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 blah. So, like I said, you're my kingmaker, brother. You got the ball rolling. You introduced me to people. Even if you didn't say, hey, check this guy out, it's the same circle. And I would talk to you like, hey, is this guy credible? Can I listen to this guy? Who's this guy? Like, because I'm a babe in the woods still. Like, I have all these followers and friends and fans, people saying your wisdom has to be put out there. I'm like, okay, cool. Who are you?
It's
don't take this the wrong way, Mr. Ford, but who's Michael Ford? And that's what cracks me up, and I have a lot of fun with it. This is exactly the most, maybe sometimes people need to hear this. And I think sometimes it gives them hope when they have someone that they like, that's a producer of content, when they tell you that you guys are giving me the experience of a lifetime that I've always wanted, because I didn't always have a happy life. That's partially where some of this comes from, is I had to go through, the wounded, the those who suffer are the ones who grow. They're the lucky ones, like the Beast says in was it Broken or whatever it is, after Unbreakable. There's some truth to that. And I've gone through a pretty, difficult life up to this point of my own making. And to suddenly be doing something, even on a small scale, because I don't, my head's not that small, and I don't have tens of thousands of followers or anything. But to have even 20 or 30 people message me on a daily basis to ask me deep questions and to respect my opinion, and then to be willing to buy a book from me or to buy a write from me, or to, like you, giving me this honor, it's magnificent. I can't put it into words. I really can't. And it's not humility that I'm coming from here. It's like stunned. I'm stunned. I don't know how to respond.
Appreciation, I think, is the word.
It's a lot of appreciation, and it's also like when you first met me, you'd give me a compliment. I didn't know, I'd stammer. I didn't know how to respond because I'm not used to it. And I'm still not 100%. I've learned how to respond to it, but I still go, fuck. You know?
Well, you know, it's like I don't know. I've been called a lot of things in my life, but a kingmaker wasn't one of them. And that was, dude, that it hits me where I live, brother. I like that, dude. That's pretty tight. I just hope my head don't grow too big with that.
Well, what about me? I'm the king then, right? What the fuck, you know?
Yeah, right.
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, I watch you interview people and work with people, and I watch you work with these people who, after talking to you, or not just after, but it's like you pick the ones that are worth listening to, and you get them on your show, and you work with them. That doesn't mean that you get all of them, or that there's only the ones.
Yeah, I'm still working on a few people, so yeah, I get you.
Yeah, it's like you have a good judge of who to follow. And it seems like people who go on your show are worth that. And as you get bigger and better in your work, you know, like that's your strength, dude. That is, you know, as much as you like to give away secrets and knowledge, and you do a very good job of that, your ability to be kind of like the Johnny Carson who gets the guests on the show and gives them the right questions and support. That is actually a big gift that you may not be aware of.
Years ago, I had a dream where I was sitting on a dais right beside a throne, and I was a king's advisor, is what it was, counselor, if you will. And that's why I kind of hit home, because I was sitting there and I was telling my wife about it today, and I was like, you know, that's pretty tight, and that's one hell of a title. I don't even know if I could live up to it. She goes, "What?" She says, "You are." She says, "You do give great advice, you know, and you know you do counsel people, you know." She says, "Who do you think the king's counselor was? He was the kingmaker. He made sure the king kept his throne, and you know." So it's just, I don't know. There's lots of ins and outs with that, nuances.
Well, I mean, you always say like, oh, you have all this whatever, you know, like you know, you're the magical motherfucker and blah 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 blah, and you give me all these compliments. But then there's times where I go, you know, I just got to tell Waylon my thoughts, because I need someone who's not gonna, you know, I can, you know, because as much as somebody might be like, oh, you're always kissing Thorne's ass, which I don't think they think, but I mean, someone might say that because you give me compliments. They don't see the parts where you're like, dude, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong.
Yeah, I was just about to say, they're never there during the times you and I are disagreeing on something, or when we have different points of view, or we're sitting there going, I don't think so, bro. And you're like, no, I don't think so. Yeah. No, being in the position I am, I've always been grateful for it, just to be able to find actual, not necessarily talent, but find these individuals who have something that is valuable, that is worth saying, that is worth sharing and showing. And, you know, I don't know. And like I said, there's a lot of people, man. I mean, I've got my hands on a lot of cookie jars, and trying to keep up with everything has been kind of crazy. Between that and trying to fully finish recovering from surgery, which I'm doing really good on, by the way. But, you know, but a lot of it is just that, you know, I don't know, since day one, man, you just been my boy. Because, I mean, I honestly think that you may have been one of, you think maybe I was the first to bring you in. I don't think you understand that. I think that to a small degree, you were the first person that actually inspired me, and it helped me discover, you know, what I was capable of doing. Because when I met you, you know, first thing I did was read your blog, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's like really deep. And we sit there and we start conversating, and you know, and you're asking me about Kane's book, and I'm like, dude, seriously, like really, if you're into that current, you really need that book. It's badass, you know. And then the next thing you know, chatting and just, you know, sharing stuff, you know, it's like you said, you know, we walk this path together for as long or shorter period of time as we walk it. And, you know, you're just, I don't know, I've met so many awesome motherfuckers in this community upon the path I walk. And part of it's realizing your place. And mine, I've realized a long time, I can be a king and a god in my own world, in my own self, and in my own reality here. But on here and in reality, my true strength shines through when I am building and when I am aiding and helping others. Mm-hmm. And that's not to be that, you know, I'm a doormat or something to be used or anything like that, because I'll stand up for my fucking self and I'll be like, no, I'm not helping you because, you know, you lie or you steal from other people, you know, because don't think for 1 second I am not paying attention to, you know, all the stuff going around, because I am.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also the kind of person that, you know, that doesn't believe everything I read or I see. I like to discern people on my own, get to know them. And so, you know, this is really cool, man. Just having you on here. You know, it's like getting John Vermillion on here when he was releasing his book. I mean, dude, that's another one of my close brothers. And I hate to say close, because it's always weird, because the people that I honestly consider brothers and friends, there's just so damn many of y'all.
For
You
me,
know,
I've never met any of you face to
and
face.
it makes me feel weird, because I mean, I know that all y'all aren't sitting there, you know, trying to vie for Waylon's attention or anything. But Waylon is honestly sitting here going, I hope like fuck these motherfuckers aren't getting offended or feeling you know, overshot by somebody else, because that just ain't the case. But luckily, you know, I haven't
That's
had
like
to
the
deal
joke I have with my wife, where I'm like, if I'm going to do a live stream, who should be on it? She's like, well, you could put Waylon. I'm like, well, he's already included by default. We don't. How can I do that? You know, I mean, I don't mind going on by myself, but it's like a night without Waylon and a live stream or a chat or a thing. That's boring and sucks. I need to, you know, Waylon's always like you're my wingman. You know,
dude. Okay, down here in the South, we have a saying: you gotta have your motherfuckers.
you gotta have your motherfucker. We call them motherfuckers up here. We say, "Come on, motherfucker."
Yeah, you gotta have your motherfuckers. Yeah.
Motherfuckers
Gonna be motherfuckers to the day they motherfucking die. But if they got your motherfucking back, you're motherfucking okay.
Just, you know, I don't dig as well as I used to, but I got the heavy equipment that I can dig the trench if you need to put the bodies in it. So just, you know.
That is so weird, because earlier today I had a friend's wife come over to visit for a few, and she was talking about, you know, that she thinks she's gonna whoop somebody's ass. I was like, you know, the differences between a friend and a real friend. She's like, what? I said, your friend will ask you, you know, if you need help digging a hole. I said, but a real friend, he's already got his tools together and ready to go dig it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But no, seriously though, man, thank you so much for being here. And to the audience, I want to say thank you all very, very much for being here, for supporting my boy Thorne here.
Thank you.
And the Black Tower, of course. I thank each and every single one of you. I'm gonna let him say something so he can show off his pretty book.
Yeah, I'm gonna show it off one more time. You guys can get it on Amazon. I guess the link will be somewhere if it's not already there. It is pretty, you know, it's 255 pages, and it's, you know, it's double columned on each page, so it's dense enough. It's not a short little book. It's not just some poetic writing. It's not just some rehash of the Glacier or something like that. I put as much blood, sweat, and tears into every piece. So if it's not great, at least I tried.
Yeah, I was about to say, for charts, I didn't see any.
What's that?
But I said, as far as charts, I didn't see any. But try as hard as I could, I couldn't make it all the way through. I was trying to at least get to the part where about the alphabet that you used. So,
oh yeah, I forgot to mention the alphabet. That's actually, and I'm not going to go into that much, but it is. I did a video about it actually. I did it about magical writing. That's another example of the information that's free out there. But I do a short section. It's not long. It's a short section explaining methods to create your own. And if you don't want to create your own, you can use mine. In fact, the cover of the book actually has encoded the meaning if you use my alphabet that's in there.
What page is that on, so I can go ahead and get to it?
Oh, I just lost it. Hold on.
No, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it.
I can find it in a second. Hold on.
Well, I'll find it on my own. But but no, it was awesome having you here, and I appreciate you letting me be the first to interview you on this. It means a lot to me, man.
Well, I have to.
Yeah, I know, right? And a special shout out to a few groups. I want to do a shout out to From the Ashes Publishing, also to Dark Sorcery, to the Damn Podcast, to Frater Nebo. Hold on here. Violet Gateway, run by John Vermillion, D.H Thorne here on his YouTube channel, and also Become the Maelstrom. When we come out of here, I'm going to make for certain that added underneath all the information of the video are the links to where you can buy it on Amazon, to his YouTube channel, and to his Facebook Become the Maelstrom group, so that any of you interested in actually joining his Facebook group, please do so, and we'll get you in there. And is there anything you want to say, brother?
I think I said, just read my book. That's I say it all in there. That's where it is. I mean, it's my best you know, that's my
Oh yeah.
course.
Oh, and
Oh,
also
and it's just
Behemoth X.
there's
I
going to be
gotta
more.
do a shout out of Behemoth X, man.
Oh, yeah,
Joseph Dunn is the shit.
I love Behemoth, man. Behemoth, your books is in the mail tomorrow with Waylon's most likely. So just keep checking your mailbox sometime. But you live in Canada, and I'm all the way here. And you're not just in Canada. You're like on the other end of Canada from where I am in New York. So I don't know how many geese are going to have to fly it to the Moose Station to get it to you, but I'll have to make sure you get it right away so that you can get a review of it too. So you can just enjoy it. So we love seeing you, man. You've been so supportive of us, and congratulations on your achievement, the 5,000 subs. And for those of you who don't know, Behemoth just started selling services as well, and he's doing it right. And I'm going to tell you how I know, because he'll tell you to your face, I only do 1 or 2 of these a month. I put everything I can into it, and it's not a business. It's literally just a thing that he does. So, because he's not hard up for money. I don't know if you guys know what Behemoth does for a living. He's not hard up for money or anything. This guy is a true blue, legitimate guy. I can't speak highly enough of his practices, his videos, etc. Just boom. That's all I can say. I mean,
if you want an idea, visually speaking, of how badass this guy is, you need to seriously go check out his ritual workings with Zozo, because anybody that gets possessed midway and crawls out of their circle, badass, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mentioned the whole thing is just fucking awesome. And
it is, and nobody does a video like he inspired me to improve how I do my videos, especially for paying customers. I'm like, well, I can't just like do it in like my bedroom or my altar or somewhere else. I've got to create a better ritual space that is appreciated. And then, like he just knows how to show the energies of a working in his videos, which I can do that on my own, but to put it in a video is hard, because just for him to be able to concentrate on camera and to reach those levels of consciousness and making contact, that's hard to do. I do it, and I know it's hard. I've done it on video too. There's my ritual to Vine, but he's doing it with a beautiful ritual chamber. Man, if you ever have me to your house, you're gonna have a hard time getting rid of me, because I'm gonna be pretty much just hanging out in there, just calling it's like you've ever been to somebody who had a better computer than you and you just don't want to stop playing with it? That's me. I'm gonna be sitting there like, just got this in there. This is so awesome.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've done a lot of rites, and I don't record. I do not record my rituals like at all. I don't I don't do the video thing with them. For lots of reasons. Some of it is I think some of it would be lost in translation. But Joseph Nunn is the shit. Yeah, it's like he's able to separate himself so well that when he gets in his zone, that's it. It's him and whatever he's working with, and that's absolutely it.
You can tell, like when someone's legitimate, and not to compare again, but when you watch me or you watch me, there's no shame in the game. They're doing the spell. They're completely engaged, and they're not sitting there going, how do I shoot this? How do I do that? No, they're doing it. Maybe he'll edit it afterwards so it's pretty, but he's doing it.
Yeah,
I love it.
But we're gonna cut this here because I don't want to keep you up too late, and also the viewers and stuff. But I do want to say thank you to everybody out there. It was fucking awesome having you here, and definitely for having you here, Thorne.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Everybody, thanks for being here. If you don't mind, do me a favor, share this video or go to my YouTube channel and share the promo video that I made for the book, because, well, it'll just help me out. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help me out, please do so. I really would appreciate it.
And share this video around so that it's complimentary with it. That way, they know what's covered and stuff.
That's right.
But
you want to say the magic words?
Sure. From Become the Maelstrom and the Black Tower, peace, blessings, and power. Till next time.
And power. Till next time.
Hell yeah.